Hey y'all, I'm Bud Elliott, and this is Cover 3 College Football Summer School. We've done our research on the teams, and now we're bringing on the top team experts from the 24/7 Sports Network to help us fill in the blanks. Please follow us on Twitter at Cover 3 Podcast. That's Cover 3 Podcast. And leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. All right, class is in session. Hey guys, I'm Bud Elliott, and welcome back into the Cover 3 College Football Podcast. This is another summer school edition, and today we are talking Sugar Bowl champs. That's right, Baylor. And to help us talk Baylor, we're going to go ahead and bring on Garrett Ross of BearsIllustrated.com. Garrett, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And I'll always enjoy reading y'all's coverage over there at Bears Illustrated, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Really nice year for Baylor last year, 12-2 overall. I think the Vegas power ratings had them like 15th, which not a huge disagreement, I guess, with 12-2. I think most everybody can agree they were somewhere between a really good to elite level team. I had them a little bit lucky in terms of like the close game stuff, 5-1 in games that were within a touchdown in the final 5 minutes. But to their credit, they did close that out. I imagine that the mood in Waco has got to be pretty damn good.
Oh yeah, it's really good. The thing is going to be, how can you back it up, right? Like most of your games last year, the big key games, you had the benefit of playing them at home in McLean Stadium. This year you're going to have to go to Norman. You got to go to Provo, as well as Austin and Texas Tech. So that's going to be the challenge this year, is being able to really control the games away from home and get those wins.
No doubt about it. We'll go ahead and start here on the offensive side of the ball. Last year, 41st in efficiency. So definitely the lesser of the two units between the offense and defense, but it held its own. I felt like at times it got better throughout the year. The new scheme under Jeff Grimes, I thought was a real improvement over the prior year with basically simplifying, go a little more zone and something the players could buy into more. We also saw Dave Aranda not punt in opponent territory nearly as much as he seemed to trust his offense. I was very worried about him as a head coach after 2020, given all that, but it felt like now that he has some confidence, maybe he's a little more progressive in that area. And today's perfect timing for this episode because it looks like it's going to be Shapen at quarterback, and they're going to let Bohannon know and give him a chance to transfer out, right?
Yeah, so I think the news really came down last night. If you go back and look throughout the course of the season, as far as spring practice goes, it was really a close battle. I think what it really comes down to is Shapen's command of the offense and his ability to stretch the field. Gary is a good quarterback, really, when it comes down to dumping it down to your tight ends, which is very beneficial to have guys like Sims and Dabney that you can rely on. But he really struggled stretching the fields at times last year, and he was really reliant, in my opinion, too much on Tyquan Thornton. Those were two guys who hit campus at the same time and were able to get a lot of reps in outside of practice, and they just were comfortable. But there was times last year where he had opportunities to spread the field, and RJ Sneed might be behind the coverage, but he just was comfortable going back to Thornton. And I think that's really what the difference is. Baylor wants to open this offense up this year and kind of take some of the pressure off of their running backs.
Interesting. That's where I was going to go next. So, Shapen, I felt like had a really high completion percentage, and obviously, 5-0 touchdown interception ratio that's what you're looking for. But a relatively, low, given that yards per attempt. So pushing the ball down the field is going to be interesting. I have, I guess, some questions about this offense because Smith and Ebner are gone at running back. Thornton, Sneed, and Estrada are all gone at receiver, right? So I'm kind of like, that's tough. Anybody who had more than 20 targets last year is gone, but yet I see an offensive line that returns a whole lot. So I don't know. Off the rip, I'm like, this offense is going to be worse this year. But now I'm like, I don't know. Maybe if the offensive line can carry them and they can have more success pushing down the field, as you're indicating. Who do you think steps up for them at those skill positions? That's an awful lot to lose in one offseason.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have a lot of young guys. I think if you look at your experience, you look for a guy like Gavin Holmes on the outside as receiver. But this is a guy who's also coming off of 2 ACLs. So, you never know what you're going to get in that aspect. But look for a guy like Monterey Baldwin. This is a young kid from the area, the Central Texas area, that really had a breakout. He looked really good during the spring game as well. And he got some reps last year. But you could also look for a guy like Javon Gibson to come out. Yeah, this is a young guy as well, but he shined and showed some promise stretching the field. And he had him and Cameron Bonner is another guy to keep an eye on as well. Shapen had a good connection with both of them guys in the spring game. It's just a matter of being able to do that on a consistent basis once you get into live action.
For sure. So last year, Smith, Ebner, and Bohannon combined for damn near 500 rushing attempts. That's a ton of your offensive plays going to three guys with their legs. I assume they won't run Shapen nearly as much as they ran Bohannon. Is there a back that they feel good about?
Right now, I think you're going to look at a guy like Tay McWilliams to really step up and get a bulk of the carry. So, he did a really good job of doing that in the spring game. You're also going to look at a guy like I'm drawing a blank right. Jordan Jenkins that was coming in. He's a freshman, but this is a guy that you're really wanting to put your team around. He was recruited. He's a bigger back. You saw some reps from him during the spring game. I think you're going to see him get involved more as well. But those are going to be – and also Squirrel Williams. Squirrel Williams is a guy who Baylor fans have been waiting to see break out since like 2018. He's been sidelined with a lot of injuries. But he come out in the spring game and broke loose on multiple touchdowns. He's really fast, elusive. It's a matter of if you can get him healthy. But that's really where you have the benefit of having that experience in the offensive line that's going to come into play.
So the offensive line is – if you're betting on this Baylor offense to be better this year, it's more efficient quarterback play and the offensive line continuing to become a really strong unit.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think it definitely helps when you have four guys returning on the unit who all had valuable reps last year. And they did a really good job holding their own in the spring game against the Baylor defensive line, who a lot of people are expecting to be really good. I mean, you're bringing back multiple starters across there with TJ Franklin, guys like Apu Ika, who had a big game coming over from LSU last year. You add Jackson Player out of the transfer portal from Tulsa as well, and you throw him into the mix. And they got a lot of talent up in the front of the defensive end, but they struggled getting pressure in the spring game against the offensive line.
Interesting. So let's go there now to that defense. Last year, the defense, no surprise, Dave Aranda coach team. They were really damn good, 13th in total defensive efficiency. That front is going to be nasty. I have to think they don't lose anybody, right?
No, I mean, that's really going to be the staple point of your defense. And also, you got to count on your linebackers as well. When you bring back a guy like Dylan Doyle in that position, you add Josh White coming over from LSU, and you also have Matt Jones, who he's really got a lot of promise. He's been injured and missed a lot of the spring, but it's definitely going to be your front seven to carry the load for the defense.
Are they going to – how much will they miss Bernard and Logan at linebacker?
Bernard more so a lot. I think the biggest key off that defense is going to be Jalen Petrie. I don't know how you're really going to be able to replace him. And then on the back end, I think you're going to miss JT Woods. Riley Tejada is the guy you'll miss as well. But there were some times last year where Tejada got exposed. But I think that's going to be really difficult trying to replace Bernard. But more so, it's Jalen Petrie that is going to be the biggest loss for that defense.
As far as the veteran nature of the guys you do have coming back, I thought one of the things that impressed me at Baylor last year was how many different coverages they could run and run successfully. And I think you saw that in terms of the number of pass breakups and interceptions that they came down with. They fooled people oftentimes. And granted, like that's kind of what Aranda does, but it does require a certain level of intelligence and experience oftentimes with those DBs. Do you think they can run as much stuff as they ran last year, or are they going to have to not dumb it down, but sort of simplify it a little bit?
That's actually a really good question. So Ron Roberts, the defensive coordinator, addressed this a couple of weeks ago, and he said that right now he feels like this unit is far ahead of where they have been up to any point. Now, granted, you're losing a lot of talent, but for him to say that he's confident in that mental makeup that you're talking about.
For sure. Special teams, no huge losses, it looks like, right? Other than Ebner returning kicks.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult. I mean, you're going to probably look for Squirrel Williams. He's gotten some reps. Armani Winfield as well as another young guy. And Monterey Baldwin, those are some guys that you could probably see back there returning kicks. But Ebner is definitely the biggest loss as far as special teams goes.
You feel like this team is a is a legitimate contender to get back to the Big 12 title game, or you feel it's more of kind of like a regroup here?
I mean, look, we were actually talking about this yesterday on our Bears Illustrated podcast, and I have Baylor going 8-4 in the regular season. And that really goes back to what I was talking to you at first, is a lot of the games on the road. If you look at last year, when you went to TCU, that was you weren't expecting Chandler Morris to go off, but at the same time, you got to take care of business, right? And you weren't able to do that. You went up to Stillwater in a true road environment, and you come away with a nil. But with all of that said, I think there's just too much hurdles to overcome this year. You have the talent, but I need to see you prove that you can win on the road. That's why I have them 8-4.
I think that's fair. I mean, also in the non-con, Baylor typically schedules itself a 3-0, but last year they had BYU at home. Now they got to make that return trip to Provo, and I feel like that Provo team, even though I think you should project Baylor's defense to be quite good again, I'm confident that BYU team is going to score on people and early on. Like, they bring back a lot offensively, so the offense for Baylor is going to have to be able to put up, you think, like at least like a 28 spot to go do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and I think that's going to be where we really find out a lot about the secondary, because BYU is going to test you. They're going to try to get you in situations and test the back end of that defense. And that's where I'm kind of concerned. I don't know I know there's a lot of talent on the team, especially on the back end, but the youth and not having seen those game reps, how does that come out and play? And I think that's going to be the tricky situation when you're up in Provo against BYU.
No doubt about it. Garrett Ross, Bears Illustrated. Really appreciate it. Everybody check out the Bears Illustrated podcast as well. Go to BearsIllustrated.com if you're a Baylor fan or a Big 12 fan. And Garrett, enjoy the time. We'll have to have you back on Cover 3 as we preview the season.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me.
All right, that's the bell. Cover 3 College Football Summer School is over for today. But don't worry. We'll be back soon with even more episodes filling you in on the top teams in college football. Please give us those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow us on YouTube and on Twitter at Cover 3 Podcast. And we'll see you all soon.